Hi, this is Jan with Jan's Jewelry Supplies. Welcome to another soldering video. We're going to be doing a number of instructional videos that will have some kits to go with them. If you're new to soldering, you may want to view our first video for soldering, which is Soldering Made Easy, Video 1. This is Kit 106, earrings, and we will have it in a variety of colors. The kit will contain all of the stones and settings that you need, along with ear clips and connectors and jump ring. We'll be using 300-degree solder wire. You will also need side cutters and some needle nose pliers, and we will be using a heat gun. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to start by rolling out some Play-Doh. It doesn't matter what color it is, and it can be an off-brand. This is just to hold your stones in place. I'm just going to go ahead and roll it out and make sure it's nice and smooth. You want to make sure you get it to about at least a ½ inch larger than your project. When starting my designs, I like to go ahead and start from the center and work my way out. I've placed my 16mm stone and setting in the center, and I'm working my way around the piece. And I have gone ahead and added all of my stones. Now I'm going to go ahead and begin soldering. And I'd like to start in the center again and work my way out, so I'm trying to get as much heat as I can in the very center. Just heat it up a little bit first. Once it starts heating up, then you're pretty much good to go. Just work your way around. Whenever I place the solder, once it's hot, it'll just melt quickly. I just kind of dot in between the two settings. You don't need a ton of solder, just a little bit in between the settings. It's almost like you're drawing a line in between the stone and in between the settings, the two settings that you're working with. And I finished the bottom portion of one earring. You're going to do a second one of these. And I'm going to go ahead and roll out some more Play-Doh and work on the top portion of the ear clips. Once again, I'm going to roll it out and try and get it nice and smooth. I'm going to go ahead and lay out my stones and settings for the top portion of the ear clips. You just have an 18x13 setting and stone for each one, and then the top has 5 8mm settings up above the pear. Go ahead and use my heat gun to start heating up the settings. Once I've gotten it hot, then I'm just going to go ahead and apply my solder. You want to be careful not to place the settings too far down in the Play-Doh. If you get it down in there too far, the Play-Doh will act as insulation, and it'll keep the settings from heating up enough to melt the solder. And you also want the metal to melt the solder, not the heat gun. If you're using the heat gun to melt the solder, you're going to end up with a mess. I'm going to go ahead and add the jump ring. This jump ring will connect to the bottom portion of the earring, and I just use a ball of Play-Doh to hold the jump ring in place. I'm just going to heat it up and then add some solder to the open end of the jump ring. I always place the open end where I'm going to solder, that way it completely closes up the circle. I'm also adding some solder to the back where I plan on putting the ear clip. I'm using the third hand to hold the ear clip in place. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get it situated just right, but once you get it there, it's a huge help because your ear clip will not move while you're trying to solder. And generally I just kind of rest it on there. I will then use my pliers to add a little pressure so that it does connect to the setting. I'm going to go ahead and start applying some heat with the heat gun. As you see, I've got my pliers. You don't want to push too hard because if you do, you'll dislodge the solder that you've done earlier. So you just want to lightly add some pressure just so that it is actually touching the back of the setting. I now need to go back and add the jump rings to the lower portion of the earrings. And I just use a ball of Play-Doh to hold the jump ring in place. Now I'm going to lay my jump ring down with the opening of the jump ring on top of the setting so that I can apply solder and close up that jump ring. I'm going to apply some heat with the heat gun and then run a good amount of solder over the jump ring to make sure it's nice and secure. I will need to also add a jump ring to the second piece. And now that I have it all soldered, I need to connect them. And I've just got the little C connector. And they have like a little, almost like a little hook on the end of them. You'll just hook that around the jump ring. And then you close it. And the ridged edge is going to be to the outside of the earrings. The side where the rhinestones are is where you're going to see most of the connector. And you just pinch it closed. And then you take the top portion and do the same thing. Just hook it on there. And then close it with your pliers. And that one is done, and you will just do the same thing with the second one. I generally just use dish soap and water with a toothbrush to get any of the Play-Doh out of the earrings. And then when I'm done cleaning them, I just turn them over and let them drain to make sure there is no water resting behind the stones, because the moisture will cloud the stones if you're not careful. And now we have our completed earrings. And these measure about 4 inches tall by 2 3/4 inch wide. And that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.